Now the time for our interview. This is one that I was looking forward to because I have sitting here right across from me our very own Tish, our producer Tish, our apprentice producer. Leticia, it's great to have you here with us. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
So Tish, I wanted to hear about your story. You shared a little bit about it with me, but before it, because you mentioned that you're very young, aren't you? How old are you now?
I'm only 20.
You're 20 years old, but you said that you fell in pretty sick, haven't you?
Yeah. A few years ago, I can say now that I had the privilege of getting quite sick because it taught me so much. But yeah.
Okay, so hold on there because I'm going to get there because
Yeah.
a lot of times when people think, hey, I'm getting sick, it's very hard to say, hey, could any positive thing come out of that? But it looks like God had shown you something through your sickness that you wouldn't be able perhaps to see otherwise. But before we get into that, I want to ask you a little bit more about you. So who are you? Tell us a little bit, where you're from. Do you have a family, friends, or siblings? Tell us a little bit about where did you grow up?
Yeah, so I grew up in the beautiful place called Brisbane, more specifically Logan. I know there's some people from my church listening. And I need to put this a bit closer.
Yeah, just come a bit closer to the microphone. Yeah, there you go.
There we are. So I grew up in Logan, went to school there. I've got a lot of beautiful friends. And after I graduated high school, had the privilege to go to a program called Arise, and that's where I've made a lot of my spiritual friends that I have now.
Okay, so tell me a little bit about what this Arise program is that you've went. What did you do there?
Yeah, so Arise is basically a 3-month program where you get together, study the Bible, get some time to have outreach programs, learn how to give Bible studies, and just get a closer walk with God. And
okay, that's
so
really
positive.
Cool. I actually did the Arise course myself.
Nice.
And I really loved it. It was a long time ago. When was it? About 10 years ago now. But I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
The Arise program is a great program. By the way, just a tip there: if you're keen to grow in your faith, and if you like to invest 3.5 months of your life in learning, just like having an immersion in the Bible and learning how to share your faith with others, you have to check it out. Text me here, and I can send you the link for the Arise program, ARISE, or you can just Google it for yourself. So, Tish, tell me, okay, so you went to Arise. And when everything started, so you grew up, I am imagining, fairly healthy.
Yeah.
And what happened? So how did you get sick?
It's a pretty fun story, actually. I grew up being a very active person. As you know, Scappy, I'm a bit of a runner, not anymore. But I loved going on big, long runs, lots of hikes, pretty active person. And so, on one of these hikes, we'd gone to Girrawheen National Park. Beautiful place.
Where is it?
Fully recommend. It's near Stanthorpe.
Okay.
So that is...
in New South Wales, inland? Okay.
Inland New South Wales. Beautiful, beautiful place. 100% recommend it for hiking. And I got bitten by a mosquito, which sounds really, really small, but it had a really big impact on my life because I got pretty sick because of that. And then,
so what was the disease that this mosquito transmitted to you?
I believe it's called Ross River fever.
Not
pleasant.
Fever.
No.
Yes. Oh, I've heard about it. It's gnarly.
Yeah. So that took a bit of a turn for the worse for a couple of years. It gave me lots of problems with fatigue, made walking pretty hard, made studying pretty hard. Because, this was happening at the same time as senior high school was happening.
But what happened to you? So how did you discover that you had Ross River disease?
So just a couple of months of some severe fatigue and lots of symptoms and nausea and stuff like that wasn't getting any better. And so, eventually we went to a doctor and they said, this is what has happened. And, we just didn't catch it early enough.
But was there a treatment for that? Is there a cure? Or is that going to stay with you forever? Or how does it work?
Just some really, really good lifestyle choices, which have been positive and, better now.
Okay.
But it's just got to be managed with lifestyle.
Okay, because there's no cure. For it's just like a flu that, you get over it and then it's gone.
It can.
It kind of stays in your system, kind of like malaria.
It's supposed to only last for a couple of months, but it can affect you in some way for the rest of your life.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So you said that you got this, you're feeling extremely fatigued. Tell me a little bit about this fatigue. How does it feel like? So basically, like you wake up in the morning and you don't want to get out of bed, or you feel like sleepy throughout the day. Is that how it works?
Yeah, you get really, really sleepy, pretty nauseous. Your legs and your arms feel like they're made of lead, and basically, especially stairs. Stairs became my arch nemesis, if you will. We had this one really big flight of stairs up to the English class when I was in high school. And I remember I would get halfway up the stairs and just sit there and cry because there was so many more stairs left. And yeah, that's really when, I realized that I needed God.
So how did God come into place? Because you, was that before Arise happened into your life?
Yeah, it was before Arise.
So, but I'm assuming here that you grew up in a Christian family, in a Christian home.
Yeah.
So you heard about Jesus before. I'm assuming that your parents would have taught you how to pray, and you've read many Bible stories by now. So, when all of this happens, how did God play a role into that story?
So, from every other perspective, you would say that I was a pretty normal Christian girl growing up, but I also had my own coping strategies and my own things that were making my life what I thought was fulfilling and how I thought I had control of it, that being through being able to exercise when I got stressed, or being able to go and hang out with friends, or to do something that I knew that I could be fully in control of. And when I fully lost control of everything that I thought I was able to do by myself, I realized that, I needed a personal relationship with God, because none of my own strength even existed anymore. I couldn't even control getting up the stairs on my own.
Wow.
So from that point, I had to realize that, it had to be God. I actually wrote down something that I'd written at that time, which is kind of what had to become what I was telling myself every day. It says, if who you are is dependent on what God can do, if who you are is not dependent on what God can do, you will never experience true joy. If you find your value in anything other than God and the promises of the Bible, you will be discouraged.
Wow.
And that became what I had to say every morning. I had to realize that I didn't have any strength of my own. And so every exam, every bit of study, even every single step I took had to be by the strength of God. There was literally nothing I could do to help myself. And in some ways, it's very sad that it got to the point that I had to have no ability of my own before I turned to God. But I'm still so glad that God was able to save me in that time. And he's been able to from that time forward.
Wow, that's amazing. And so you lost everything. Like you couldn't even go up the stairs anymore. And so I'm wondering here, how was your prayer? What did you say to God at that time when you're like sitting down at the stairs and you're crying and you realize, look, I need to reach out to God? What did you say to him?
To start with, I can admit I was pretty stubborn, and most of the prayers were, God, I'm stuck on the stairs. Why in the world am I stuck on the stairs? And then from there, slowly progressed to, God, I know that you can help me get up these. I know that you can help me finish my study. I can't do it myself. I know I don't have the energy to, and you know that I don't have the energy to, but I'm learning to know that you're the one that made me. You're the one that gave me this energy. If there's anyone that can be helped because of this experience, please help me get up the stairs, or please help me do this. And if it's not your will, that's okay. I'll sit on the stairs. And sometimes I did sit on the stairs, and someone would come along and talk, and we'd be able to have a conversation on the stairs.
So nobody would help you get up the stairs?
Oh, yeah. Some of my friends did help me up the stairs.
Okay.
But other times it was good to just sit down, and then someone would come and say, are you okay? But I would be able to have a conversation with them, and sometimes that would be able to help them as well.
Wow.
But it really, really helped me to realize that my plans for my life were probably actually very different to what God had. And it really taught me to rely on literally every single word and every single thing that God promises. Because, none of my own strength could do that.
So have you ever resented God's plan for you while you're going through that struggle? Do you ever, because you mentioned, you said, God, why am I sitting here down the stairs? So have you ever like resented and says, no, God, why me? Why now? And if yes, how did you deal with that resentment? Because clearly you are a girl that loved God, that loved Jesus, and clearly you know your eyes shine when you're talking about what God has done for you. So, how did you go from resentment into trust? If you experienced that resentment, maybe you haven't.
I actually did. I regret to say that to start with, I was very resented, and when I first was laying down in bed for so long, as can be imagined, it felt very helpless, and I was pretty upset. I thought that everything was fine and that I'm just stuck here for no reason and what is going on? But yeah, as you said, slowly as I realized, and thankfully through my Sabbath school teachers as well, who were very patient with me and had very lovely things to say about God and about the things that we put into our bodies and the things that we allow to come out of our mouths. And little by little, things changed me. And I started being able to pray that God would use these experiences for good. And then slowly, it didn't happen overnight, slowly, bit by bit, I was able to turn that resentment into joy and into, thank you, Lord, that this has given me the opportunity to be close to people that need it right now. And that was, really powerful.
Wow. And how did God help you, for example, complete your studies? Because I would imagine that even studying and trying to focus would be a pretty big thing. How did he pull through? How did he use just like some supernatural ability or strength, or how did it work for you to complete your studies?
That sounds crazy to say, but I actually do believe that was the case. I had sometimes, I'll use an example here, where I showed up to an exam one morning and I felt really sick. I didn't know how I was even going to be able to physically write my exam. This is for my finals in year 12. And I prayed before I got out of the car. I stood in line, waited for the exam to start, got inside the room. As soon as I sat down and we were at the table, I felt okay. My mind was clear. I didn't feel sick. I sat the 2-hour exam, might have been 2 hours and a half. I got up, walked out of the room, said goodbye to my friends. As soon as I got in my car, I have not been that sick in probably years.
Wow.
I couldn't move. I felt so nauseous and instantly got a fever. And I was in bed for the next at least day and a half. I think I slept for like 14 hours, I think it was. It was quite a while.
So you could see, like, look, God really
it was good.
lifted up my so I could fulfill what needed to be done.
Yes.
And then as soon as that ended, it dropped it, kind of dropped back with full force. Wow.
But several times, I have several stories, especially with exams and study, where I knew it was not me, because I would sit down, I would do the exam, and then I would leave the room and just straight back into can't do a thing. Or there'd be times where I needed to study and I would sit up for a certain amount of time, get like the amount needed that I needed to get done, and then I would just feel so sick again. Okay, I've got to go lay down again.
Wow.
And then I would pass. I passed every single thing in school, and I passed every single thing in uni so far, and I know that was not me. Wow. I can 100% testify that was only because of God.
And look, this is a very powerful testimony, because you're studying nursing at the moment.
Yes,
right?
I am.
So you're going to be, if you're studying on how to help people heal and get better.
Yeah.
I am wondering here, if you could give a person in a similar situation, let's say it's a young man, it's a young woman, and perhaps they're teenagers, perhaps they are struggling at home, and they are blaming God for whatever happened to them. Maybe something that is completely out of their control. You've been to that experience. What would you say to them if they are losing hope, if they're bitter, if they are angry with God at their hearts? What would you say to them?
Yeah. To start with, don't rule God out, for sure. He has such amazing plans for you. And secondly, just a Bible verse that I would leave with them would be 2 Corinthians 12:9. Which simply says, "My grace is sufficient for you, for my strength is made perfect in weakness. Therefore, most gladly I will rather boast in my infirmities, that the power of Christ may rest upon me." And I would encourage them to, see how God works, and to not rule him out, because he's fully working for your good.
Amen. Amen.